All right, we're back. It's another Carolina podcast, maybe the saddest podcast we've ever done. There's nothing good to talk about today. Wes and Chris and I are all dreading revisiting the Texas A&M game again. South Carolina lost that one 30-6. Thank goodness for that field goal in garbage time to make it a little bit more respectable final scoreline. We also are going to spend a good bit of time.
Let's talk about the basketball game.
Oh yeah. Seriously, I went to the basketball game last night because I like going to the basketball games. I was like, okay, it'll be like still negative football talk on Wednesday, but there will be some positivity with the basketball program to balance it out. And I'm not, like running around with my hair on fire like some people I've seen. They're like, oh, that's the basketball season. I'm like, okay, well, you're an idiot. Stop. But certainly not a good showing last night against Boston University, who got their first win over an SEC team. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the A&M game, and we're here to talk about statementgate. Also just incredibly negative for the University of South Carolina, and not just here in Columbia, but just around the country. Everybody thinks that this place is a laughingstock, and it's kind of turning into it. It's really bad. We'll talk about that. But we have to start with the first bad thing that happened this week for South Carolina, and that was the Texas A&M game. I was in College Station. Kyle Field is awesome. It is really cool. Have y'all ever been?
Yes.
He has. I haven't.
I went to the
Sweet?
2017 game. Really awesome.
Gosh. Had they done the renovations by then, or is that the year after?
They had done them, I believe.
Okay, because I knew they were somewhat recent.
We're in the midst.
Okay.
I don't. It's so hard. The place is so big. I
Yeah.
didn't even know where I was most of the time.
It was so impressive. It felt more like a pro stadium than any college stadium I've been in.
Did
More
you
of a
do-
pro stadium than most of the pro stadiums I've been in?
Did you do any other part? You went into Houston, is that right?
Yep, flew into Houston. Went to a Rockets game Friday night. Drove to College Station,
nice.
which is like an hour and a half or something, and then spent the afternoon in College Station walking around. They have like their own little. I mean, it's not 5 points, but they have like their little row of bars that are on campus.
Northgate, right?
Yeah, Northgate.
Yeah, that's a cool spot.
Yep.
Did you go to the chicken?
The Dixie Chicken.
Yeah.
I read several people on various message boards saying that it was overrated and that it used to be really good when they opened, but that it's not as good anymore.
Well, the food was pretty good. I think it was more that one of those things you feel like you've got to do when you go. But I thought it was really cool. What stood out to me about A&M is like just the atmosphere, the people there. It's like really unique how they just how the people are. I mean, the people, from what I saw, how the Texas A&M faithful interacted with Gamecock fans when I was just observing was really interesting. Everybody was really welcoming. It was a really neat place. I thought some cool things to do. Huge campus, huge enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really interesting when you drive in. It's like a bunch of like farmland and stuff,
Right?
And then you're on campus.
And then a big
you
golf
got this
course on
huge
the right.
stadium.
It's like-
Yeah, the golf course.
Yeah.
But yeah, really impressive place.
It was. I didn't have many interactions with the A&M fans, and I was actually curious about that. So we were sitting in, I think it's like maybe next to the Dixie Chicken. It was, which by the way, do y'all know that Little Feat song? Do you know Little Feat, the band? Like an old Southern rock kind of band? No,
Not ringing a bell.
Dixie. It's called Dixie Chicken. It's a great song.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went to the place next to that. They had a bunch of like activities in their front yard, basically. But anyway, I went inside and we were sitting there watching the Georgia game, and just having a drink before the game. I was so confused because walking through campus to get to that point, and even when we got there, it was all pretty low key. And so I asked the bartender, I was like, "Hey, so like, what's the deal? Is it just because Carolina blows, like no one's excited for the game?" She's like, "No, but usually whenever there's a late kickoff, everyone goes to like morning tailgates, and then they drink too much, and then they nap in the afternoon, and then they rally for the game." So they got it down to a science there, apparently.
Wow.
But it was just weird because you walk through Columbia on a game day, and you just feel like the city's like always on the cusp of a riot because everyone's just losing their minds. And walking through College Station, it was like people just like walking around.
It was nap time.
Yeah, it was nap time. So I guess I missed some of that.
Siesta.
But I didn't have any negative interactions. It was like just kind of low key. But then once you got into the stadium, they have all their like traditions and their call and response, and which was like cool. And also every once in a while, I was like, "Am I in Jonestown?" Like it felt a little creepy, cult like.
Different for sure.
Yeah, but it was cool.
It definitely wasn't a lack of people, though.
No.
I mean, they said on the broadcast, I think it was the 6th highest crowd ever.
Yeah, it was packed.
Which I don't really know why, but that's what happened.
I mean, the Carolina section was packed. Like Carolina must have sold all their visitor tickets.
It's a great trip. I think everybody wants to go there.
Yeah,
it's a
it
cool
was.
trip.
Did you sit in the press box or you sat?
No, like in the
among the
little fan
folks?
section,
So,
south end zone.
How loud was the stadium compared to other ones you've been to?
I didn't notice it being loud. It felt like normal loud to me. But there wasn't that much to cheer about, even for A&M, for most of the game. Like by the time they scored that long touchdown, which is normally when a crowd would have gone bananas, the game was already over. Everyone was comatose because it was a snooze fest.
It was.
So
it really
there wasn't
was.
a lot to cheer about, and that was my biggest takeaway from the game.
Is that nothing happened?
Nothing happened. It was bad for Carolina because, oh my gosh, like, wow, bad, but also just boring. Even
really was.
like if Carolina had won the game like 6-3 or whatever, it still would have sucked because it was so boring. Like nothing happened. Nobody could do anything. I mean, I guess there were a couple of plays early. Carolina got after Mond, and then I feel like they had a couple big passes to Wedmeyer.
Really good pass, or Carolina had a really good pass to Shaw Smith.
Yeah, the good pass.
Sideline.
So there were a couple of moments, but I mean, by and large, my memory of that game is cheering for Carolina to not pick up a third down after they went 0 for the first 10 because I didn't know what the record was. I just wanted them to get the record, and then I said this on my show on Monday, but my friend and I, in the interest of entertaining ourselves, because we didn't leave early because we wanted to. We're at Kyle Field. Might as well stay for the whole thing and experience a full game day there. So to entertain ourselves and to make the game seem closer than it was, we were making up our own stats to try and figure out where Carolina was beating A&M, and we came up with a great stat that I want to normalize, and it is points per yard. And Carolina smoked A&M in points per yard. They had like yards per point. They had like 43 yards per point, and A&M only had like 18. So Carolina won that margin for sure.
Y'all were bored.
Yeah, it was incredibly boring.
That is quite a pull.
Yeah.
On that stat. Did you find the stat on the Ofer?
No, I
on
tweeted
third
the
downs?
ESPN stats and info, and they never got back to me.
I feel like that's going to be a hard one to find.
Probably, and
Yeah.
I imagine Carolina wasn't actually close. I'm sure, like when Prairie View A&M was amidst that like 11 season streak where they didn't win a single game, they probably went like 0 for 17 in a game or something like that. So
yeah.
I'm sure Carolina wasn't close, but I was just curious. And then of course they converted the 11th one, which is stupid, but whatever.
What about when Georgia Tech beat that team 212-0?
Cumberland College
Yeah,
back
that
in like
had to-
1912 or something.
Oh, I think they turned the
Nice,
ball
yeah.
over like 15 times or something in that game. So
Well,
maybe
and I think
maybe
football
there
is still-
weren't any third get downs.
And in football, still make it take it then. Yeah.
Okay.
So Georgia Tech
Makes-
just kept scoring and getting the ball back. It was like rugby
That
where you
makes a lot
score
of
and then they kick off to you.
Yeah.
What if it was like that now? That would be interesting.
Carolina never would have scored this year.
Anyway, do we have to give takes on this game?
Yes,
It's,
that's what we do. I know you did it a little
Jesus.
bit Monday.
Yeah.
That it was so bad. Carolina's had so many awful offensive performances, and somehow that took the cake.
It did. Running game not there again. I mean, solidified what we already know. If South Carolina is not able to run the ball, very difficult for them to win. That would be a good statistical research. Is where's the threshold that Carolina has to hit in the running game to have a chance to win? When they don't run the ball, they just don't win.
I was tracking that for stretches of last season. I haven't looked at it this year, but I mean, it was like pretty much when Carolina runs for like fewer than 60 yards, they're like 0-4 last year, and then when they run over 150, they were like 3-0 or something like that. And then some gray area in there, I guess. But
yeah, so that's been the case. Even last year we talked about it. Even last year, when the offense was explosive at times, it bogged down at times for large stretches of time as well. And it seemed like it was when they were running the ball, everything else fell into place. When they weren't, everything else didn't. So. Yeah, it was more of the same defense, sort of playing hard, doing just enough, forcing some field goals, and then wearing down. I made the point on our Monday episode. I said, as much as this team has been completely difficult to predict what they're going to do, this was the most predictable performance that you like. If you would have said on paper what was supposed to happen in this game, what was most likely to happen after watching the App State game, you'd say, well, if South Carolina can't run the football again, chances are, A&M's got some guys on offense, but they're not a dominant offense. You'd say, well, South Carolina will probably struggle again on offense. They won't run the ball. They won't be able to stay on the field. Defense will play well, but wear down as the game goes along. And then that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Man, I didn't anticipate South Carolina scoring like a lot of points or moving the football well in this game. I didn't think it'd be that bad, I'll be honest. Like, it was predictable in the sense I thought South Carolina would struggle, thought they would lose the football game. I don't know if I had them going 0 for 11 on third downs for the whole – you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you necessarily would have said it's going to
definitely
go that
predictable.
bad, but after the fact, you're like, that's not a
It's not like some huge
surprising
shock.
Exactly,
result. Yeah, it's
exactly
like,
what you expected.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was more in the range of like they'll score 14,
Yep.
maybe 17
13
points
to
and
17,
give up
yeah.
maybe 27, 30 points, something like that. But
Yep.
just the way it played out, and I think Texas A&M, as the game went along, they knew, they were controlling the game, so there's really no point in them, putting the ball in danger or
Right.
putting themselves in a
And those
bad
last two
spot.
scoring drives were just, it was a 75-yard run, and then there was the one drive that was basically just like 3 Isaiah Spiller runs and then the sneak.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. I did think, I thought Kellen Mond played well. He's better than I thought he was. Early in his career, I wasn't a huge Mond believer, but I think he's improved this year. He made a lot of good decisions, and Carolina had some pressure in his face, and he was able to
early.
Yeah, he was able to get the ball out and make some plays. Obviously, what was the thought on the targeting from inside the stadium? The 3 calls. We didn't talk about that on Monday, but
Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about that. So the Brunson one, I thought was obnoxious. Probably the right call
by the letter, probably.
But what bothers me is that's not how they enforce it. They're very inconsistent with it because every offensive player on every single play does exactly the same thing that TJ Brunson did, and no offensive player, as far as I remember, has ever been flagged for targeting. So if you're gonna enforce it so strictly by the letter of the law, call it both ways. I guess it's kind of the cliche, but I found that to be terribly irksome, especially given that the point of that rule is to protect the players. Player safety is ostensibly the interest of the targeting rule. Late in the game, there were 2 targetings, 2 of what I thought were the clearest examples for targeting, especially the one on Dakereon Joyner that knocked him out of the game, and then, of course, the other one on the sideline where the Texas A&M player knocked himself out. Both instances where a player got hurt because of initiating that sort of head-to-head contact. And both of them it's not that they missed the call and they didn't flag it. They flagged it, reviewed it, and overturned it. And it just continues to be, I really truly believe that SEC officiating has taken more of a hit in terms of prestige, in terms of image. Not that there was much of one anyway, but I think it's been a worse year for SEC officiating than even South Carolina football.
Yeah, it's been
Those
horrible.
guys look like an absolute clown show. And every single attempt for either the front office or their quote-unquote rules experts to justify it just makes them look more incompetent to the point where they're starting to almost just look corrupt and like blatantly disregarding. I mean, I guess not disregarding, but they're a bunch of buffoons, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, I'm with you on the intent of the rule is to protect from head injuries. That's the biggest thing. Protect from head injuries on both sides. You don't want a player leading with the crown of his helmet because that can hurt that player. It can also hurt the other player if he's making forcible contact to the head or neck, whether it's with another body part or your head. And so all I know is that the two plays, and this has nothing to do with which uniform any of the guys are wearing because it doesn't matter to me. I'm just calling what I see with the rule. The 2 that were to the upper body, head area, head, neck area, and had an effect on those individuals were not called. The one that was a shot to the chest that would have been a clean shot fairly recently was called. So that's what I had a problem
It wasn't even called on
with.
the field, was it? It was they looked at it.
Yeah, they looked at it
at
later.
it
I don't know if
and
somebody
added it.
at some point laid a flag down.
You can't review a penalty.
You
So
can't,
they can
review
you can't
targeting.
You can review targeting if you call targeting, but they didn't call targeting.
They can initiate that.
They can
from up
initiate
top
it for
now.
targeting.
Yeah. That's fairly new because they've changed the targeting rule like 8 times.
Right.
But
They need to change it again, I guess.
Yeah,
or
you-
just
enforce it correctly.
if they see that
If you
there's-
throw a flag and a player is literally injured, which is the one thing that you're trying to avoid, don't pick up the flag. I'll edit that out, but it. Don't that up. If this is about player safety, then keep the players safe. And when players are injured, that is textbook what you're trying to avoid.
feel better.
what
A little bit.
So yeah, at least as far as I saw, it wasn't flagged initially on the field. Then they added it, and the announcer or Matt Austin, I can't remember which one said it, but they were talking about that this is a quote defenseless player.
Yeah.
What makes him a defenseless player in this instance? Because the play hasn't been blown dead yet. He's still fighting for yardage. TJ Brunson has no idea that he's dropped the football. He's just trying to go make a tackle. So they were saying, and I think the standard for targeting is different if it's a defenseless player versus a non-defenseless player. But I don't understand how. Is it because he's already being initiated a tackle? Is it because the ball has fallen out of his hands? I don't know the exact definition there, but the fact that to me it looked like a textbook tackle, and the force was delivered to his chest, and the fact that the referees on the field watching it saw no reason to flag it. That's where I think there's an issue.
Yeah, but even in that case, it's like, okay, he did initiate contact with the crown of his helmet, and that's technically illegal, but could we find 50 instances of offensive players doing that in Saturday's game? I would say probably. Every time a running back hits the hole, every time a wide receiver initiates contact, that's what you do. So if you're going to call it on TJ Brunson, if you're going to call it on defensive players, not just Brunson, this bothers me anytime it's called. Call it on the offensive players, if that's really what this is about, but it's not. And real quick, because we don't really have anything to buy or sell, and this I'm not even presenting this as buy or sell, but buy or sell. No, I can't even figure out how to make this buy or sell. But who's dumber, Bob Caslin or Matt Austin? Who's had a worse year, do you think? You're not going to answer that? You're going to make me edit that out? Who's had a worse year? You don't have to call them dumb. Who's had a worse year?
Who's had a worse week is
yeah.
Well, I think about
Caslin.
Matt Austin saying that the holding call against Florida was not a hold because the player didn't try to get away or whatever.
Yeah, he was content to run side by side. Is what he said.
He
didn't want to tackle.
What was the other thing? Matt Austin said this past week about the targeting. It was something about like he used another word that was like similar to targeting. Like he was looking to attack or something. You remember that? What was it?
I don't remember.
It was something with one of the targeting penalties. He went back to like intent again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dude, no. Like, look at what does the rule say?
I feel a little bit bad for him because I feel like I remember reading something where he actually had like a brain transplant where they just replaced it with like vanilla pudding. So, I mean, you can't really hold it against him, but that guy has had an awful year.
He's had a rough year. I think he's had a rough year, I think, in some individual instances. I think it would be even tougher question to say SEC refs / how Greg Sankey and Steve Shaw have handled it versus
or not handled
versus
it.
right versus Bob Caslin. I would say the answer to your question, if we're just going Matt Austin, would be Bob Caslin.
Yeah,
that's had a rougher
We're
time.
going to get into we're going to get into that gate.
Yeah, we will.
But you want to do a little quick buy or sell on other games this week?
No, because I got one more thing to ask you about the Texas A&M game.
After that,
yeah, sure. Because we all agreed that it was a very predictable game. So just for the sake of introducing some excitement into this, what is the most surprising thing that happened on Saturday?
I mean, for me, I go back to what I said earlier about Kellen Mond. I've watched him in some games just be wildly inaccurate. I thought against Clemson there were times when he had a pocket and open receivers and was missing guys left and right. And then, against Carolina with guys hitting him with Javon Kinlaw on his face. One of these plays, there's no way he actually literally saw his receiver running a shallow cross. And he somehow finds a way to get the ball off and hit him. For me, it was just overall Kellen Mond's play.
I guess my answer would be the complete and thorough ineffectiveness of the Gamecock offense. Again,
no touchdown,
right?
Basically.
Well,
that surprised you? Did you realize they just scored 15 points against Appalachian State?
No. Like I said earlier, it wasn't that I thought they would be effective at all. I just mean how thorough the ineffectiveness was. For example, I did not think they would go 0 for 11 to open the game on third down. I did not think they would only score 6 points in the whole game. I did not think the passing game would look completely and utterly discombobulated. I did not think it would be good. I did not think it would be that bad. I did not think Joseph Charlton would be like the second leading rusher in the game. Okay, like those are the things that were surprising. Was I surprised by, did I come away from game go, oh my goodness, I cannot believe they weren't good on offense? No, not at all. But just that would be my takeaway. In a game that was not very surprising in its outcome or what happened, Like, that would be sort of my micro takeaway is I didn't think it would be that bad offensively, which is alarming.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Well,
because you already had low expectations,
Right,
it sounds like.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as awful as they were running the football against App State, they've actually ran the football pretty well
All year.
against SEC defenses. So
it's really just these two games. People are going to point to Missouri and say Carolina didn't run the ball well against Missouri, but they just didn't run the ball against Missouri. Tennessee, I don't remember what the rushing totals were, but it was similar. Where they just kind of got away from.
They
the
weren't
run.
great though. But yeah, I just going into the game, I sort of had convinced myself, well, the App State game may be the outlier as far as their ability to run the ball. They'll be way more motivated. They'll be told how much they suck all week long. Like it'll be a much more efficient running game. And
But
then,
instead of motivating them, they just seem to start to believe it.
then the crazy thing is, we were talking about it on the Monday show. Rico Dowdle rushed for 13 yards on the first play of the game.
And the
His
next
total?
6 carries for -1.
Yeah, his total was 12.
Yeah.
So,
I told Wes this on Monday. I knew, again, I had lower expectations, but I thought they would run the football a little bit better than last week or a little bit better than they actually did. That first carry by Rico that actually was his best play by far, the best rushing play of the day aside from Charlton's run, I knew that they weren't going to be able to have success after I saw that play. And you say, well, why? He ran for a first down, 13 yards. He looked 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, now he's probably a little bit more than 50, but
53.
when he took off, normally that's a 20, 25-yard run for healthy Rico. He's not healthy. He wasn't last week. He's got a big brace on. He just didn't have the same explosiveness. So I saw that. Then I saw, Tavian Feaster not playing, which we expected. And you go, there's not really reason to feel that great about this. I mean, Kevin Harris had one nice run. I think he broke somebody's arm off with his thigh. Other than that, there just wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah.
So
Biggest surprise for me, and I'm just saying surprise in terms of what were things that I was expecting to happen, and then what actually happened. This is a pleasant surprise. The one positive takeaway from this game. Nice JJ Enagbare game.
Yeah.
Got a couple pressures, got a couple sacks.
Yeah.
He's someone that, and I think in some ways it's been nice that Carolina hasn't had to rely on him to have a huge sophomore season. He's been, I don't know, I feel like probably in that 25 snap-ish range for most games. I was expecting him to have a big year, but the defensive line's been fine without him. Like everyone's been great. I was kind of expecting him to supplant Aaron Sterling, who's obviously had a great season. So it's just good to see him pop, get a little bit of momentum here at the end of the year because he's going to be relied upon a lot next year.
got a question.
Yeah.
Up to date, if South Carolina's offense is average this year, consistently average, how many games? What's this team's record?
6-6. I think they'd have beaten App State and North Carolina. Probably still chalk up that Missouri loss. Probably still lose on the road at A&M. It's just maybe not as embarrassing. But that's a huge difference, man.
and maybe beat Tennessee.
Yeah, maybe so. The reason that I don't put Missouri or Tennessee in there confidently is because Tennessee, you give up 2 special teams touchdowns, and Missouri, you give up 2 offensive touchdowns or 2 defensive touchdowns. Like your offense gives them 14 points. And against Tennessee, the punt return and the block punt were the difference in that game.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe the better argument is for Missouri then, because if you have an average offense,
You don't have the
hopefully
two.
you don't
Yeah.
give the opponent
yeah,
two
They couldn't
touchdowns.
run,
It
and,
could be true. Yeah.
and then Ryan, was ineffective in that game. I mean, true freshman on the road, and he was beat up, And so I think they could have beaten A&M with an average offense. What we saw wasn't even below average. It was just poor. I mean, the defense played well for almost all of the game. Like, you look at it and you go, oh, 30 points, defense stinks. No, they played really well. When you put your defense constantly in bad field position, situations, they're constantly on the field. I mean, this is a non-tempo offense, and South Carolina played 83 defensive snaps. Come on.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So I think average offense, they win that game. Also, Florida, they played pretty well offensively in that game.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Florida had, 20 after 3?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think.
Or 27? I mean, 17, 20?
And, I mean, Georgia,
like
the defense won that game. They did enough barely offensively to win, but, but, yeah, I think North Carolina, I'm going to count Missouri.
Okay.
Because the defense also played well in that game.
Yeah, they did. They only gave up
All right, so
20 points.
North Carolina, Missouri.
But the
I'm not
defense
going to
played well
count
every
Florida
year.
or Tennessee.
Okay.
And then I say App State and A&M. So that's 4 extra wins.
That's generous.
I don't think so.
I think that's generous.
For an average offense.
I mean, the offense is really bad.
They lost App State by 5, did next to nothing offensively.
No, I give you App State and I give you North Carolina.
They lost that by 4. Missouri, they lost by 20, but 14 of those points are offensive. And then they couldn't, same situation. Like, they played really well defensively. They could not move the ball. They did absolutely nothing the entire first half of the game. So I'm saying do anything. Score 1 touchdown. Move the ball. Keep your defense in better position.
Well, I'll say, even then, if we're giving them 2 wins and this team is sitting at 6-5 going into Clemson with a win over Georgia,
Bob Caslin's not being an idiot.
Are some people unhappy still? Yes, but it's also because they didn't realize the alternative,
right?
Which is the timeline we're sitting in right now. And Muschamp's job is, he's not on the hot seat at all. I don't think, or not by anyone that matters. But I think, to me, this season is defined by losing to North Carolina, losing to App State. Maybe throwing for Missouri and Tennessee. To me, it's more about how they lost those games.
Those are road games in the SEC. Yeah. You lose like most of those, honestly.
And sometimes things go bad. The 2 special teams and the 2 defensive scores for Missouri. That stuff. You're not winning on the road if you give up those 2 things in those 2 games. But to me, we talked about this. South Carolina, talent-wise, is probably much more comparable to Missouri or Tennessee than anybody likes to admit. The ones that really hurt you if you're South Carolina is losing opening game, North Carolina. Everybody's healthy. You had the entire offseason to get ready for this game, and then you don't come out and play well. I think those are the ones that sort of give ammo to the idea of, moving on from Muschamp if you're pushing that. The other games, it's football, it's SEC, weird stuff happens when you're fairly evenly matched talent-wise. Sometimes it just happens. But I think those are the ones that have really hurt this program as far as the perception and as far as what you can sell right now and as far as the fan base being where it is right now.
Here's another fun question, a 2-parter, sort of related to your question, Chris, about what would the difference in a below-average offense or this just abysmal dumpster fire of an offense versus an average offense, what does that do to the win-loss record? Which unit is worse compared to its, I guess, across-the-field counterpart? Because we all agree that the defense has been good this year. And you know what else is awesome? That record-setting 2014 offense. So which unit do you think is worse, the 2019 offense or the 2014 defense?
My gut instinct is 2014 defense is worse.
It was really bad, but that team was still able to go 7-6
because of the offense.
Yeah, but this team wasn't able to go 7-6 because of the defense. So is that your case, or is it more about this offense? Because this offense is like truly. I mean, I counted last week, but even before the A&M game, or maybe this was Monday actually. I counted recently, and I think there were only like 5 Power 5 schools in all of the country that are worse offensively than Carolina. And it was like Vanderbilt, Cal, and like 2 or 3 other schools. Yeah.
Offense?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're like 111th, I think.
Do you know the lowest point totals? You can give a few. Let's go lowest non-South Alabama or Furman point totals of that 2014 season that South Carolina gave up.
24.
Close. Pretty close. Wesley, do you have a guess?
Wait, what's the question?
Lowest point total. Don't count South Alabama. Don't count Furman. Lowest point totals that South Carolina's defense in 2014 gave up.
Miami in the bowl game?
That's a close one.
How many did they give up?
21 in that game. Some other, like East Carolina, 23 in game 2. And then another one, 2 others.
Wait, Florida?
Florida was tied for first out of the ones that I granted you. The Florida 2014 game, the overtime game was 20.
The Muschamp.
23-20.
Okay, yeah.
And another one was Missouri with Pearson's favorite player, right? Wasn't
Drew Lock?
That was Drew Lock as a freshman, right?
The one
14,
good year
15,
he
16,
had against Carolina.
Yeah. Or no.
No, that was not.
That
Drew
was
Lock.
not Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, 2015.
15. So 14, was that Matty Mock?
Matty Mock.
Must have been Matty
wow.
Mock. Yep. Sorry, Drew Lock. Let Pearson pile on you even more. Yeah, that was a 21-20 loss. That was the game where
The no 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
didn't go. Forgot to go
That-
for
you
two.
know what?
And they scored 2
the
touchdowns.
defense the defense played well for
most of that game. I just remember Missouri drove it down
of that game.
and they had it completely bottled up, and then the guy reversed field and ran in for a touchdown late in the game.
The amazing thing about that defense was the overall lack of team speed that defense had as a whole.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So sounds like we're all leaning. I don't know, man. That was several games they give up fewer than 30 points. This offense not only is not going to score more than 27, but is going to finish the season averaging fewer than 20 points a game. It has to be this offense. And the part 2 of this question is, if you put the 2019 offense with the 2014 defense, would that team go over? Would they have beaten Charleston Southern? And then the flip side, how good is the team that you put the 2014 offense with the 2019 defense? If you give this team the 2014 offense, they win 10 games this year.
I go 2014 defense. I mean, as bad as this offense has been down the stretch, I mean, they're still ninth in the SEC in scoring offense.
What?
Yeah.
No, okay, but you have to factor out Charleston Southern.
Okay, I am. Versus conference opponents only. If you put just conference opponents for everybody in the SEC,
Carolina should be 13th.
They're ninth.
That's not right. I literally looked at this last week or maybe even this week.
I'm looking at it right now.
You're not looking at it right. It should be 19.4 points per game.
It's 19.9. Kentucky is averaging 18.1.
Oh, okay.
averaging
I see though,
18.
because this is all just against conference opponents. So this is
Yes.
so I'm factoring in all the non-conference except for Charleston Southern, which obviously you can't do. But that's why Kentucky is better and whoever else is down there, Arkansas.
Wait, you're factoring in what?
I was just taking out the Charleston Southern game.
Okay.
I think I've got to go, man. Ooh, it's close. The last 2 weeks have made it really close in that argument. I would still lean towards 2014, even though those teams did enough to beat Florida in the Swamp, which was that a good offensive team? No, they didn't. They beat Georgia 38-35. Not a great performance by the defense. They gave up 35 points to a Clemson team where, man, Deshaun Watson was really good even as a freshman. He also had a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm. Does Carolina buy or sell? Does Carolina score negative points next week against Clemson? Because the offense is going to be so bad they just start taking points off the scoreboard below 0? No?
No, you can't do that.
Will they score 3?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe we'll say that for next week. So we'll get an official ruling on that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's next week.
If they only scored 6 against A&M, I don't know if they'll score 3 against Clemson. They will score 3 against Clemson.
We'll do that next week.
Okay.
I agree with you.
All
right. Wes had a buy or sell.
Buy or sell.
Seriously.
I used to.
You have buy or sell based on some other SEC games?
Well, some other games.
Some other games in general.
Yeah.
All right, well, buy or sell.
All right.
Sponsored by Bishop Real Estate Group.
Yeah, tell us about them.
Terry Bishop, former Gamecock quarterback, 36 years and counting of real estate experience. It's if Pearson was going to buy a house, he would call Terry Bishop because, A, Terry Bishop is a former Gamecock quarterback, huge supporter of the program, and he knows what he's doing. So, that's a pretty obvious fit, right? So Pearson would dial 803-665-1442 or text him. Call or text Terry. He texts. Or you go to Facebook.com/The Terry Bishop Team. We appreciate his support of all our football content in this podcast.
And Wes is our host this week for Buy or Sell.
Yes. We're going national first.
Buy.
We got Ohio State versus Penn State. This is number 8 versus number 2.
Okay.
At Ohio State. Ohio State is favored by 17.5 in this game.
They good.
Are you buying or selling that Ohio State wins this game by 18 or more?
Buying. I would love to be out on Ohio State, and I always just look for reasons to be out on them, but I can't. They haven't played the toughest schedule, and they've absolutely obliterated everyone they've played. And they just played someone good somewhat recently. Was that last weekend? 2 weeks ago? They finally played someone good. No, not last week, because they played Rutgers, and they were a 53-point favorite in that game, and they did not cover. Who did they play 2 weeks ago? Ohio State?
Did they play Iowa?
I don't know.
They played
Don't
Wisconsin.
you have it right in front of you?
They played Wisconsin 2 weeks ago, won 38-7.
Yeah, I guess that was what I was thinking of. So, I don't know. I'm buying Ohio State. I think they're really good. Penn State, I'm kind of out on Clifford. Like, every time I watch Penn State, it's usually because I've not bet on them, but picked them in our pick segment. And then I watch the game and I'm like, why do I pick this team with this quarterback? I don't trust him to win any games or cover any spreads. I don't know what they are ATS this year, but I'm buying that Ohio State's 17 points favorite. 17 points better than Penn State.
18 points.
You said 17.
It's 17.5.
Oh, well, you didn't say 17.5. You said 17.
No, I
That
said
was the
17.
key.
I said 17.5,
Half of
and then
the
I
point.
said you're buying or selling that they will win by 18 or more, which is how you have to phrase it.
I think, well, yeah. If it's 17.5, but I thought you said 17. I will review the tape since we have this recorded, fortunately.
You don't have to review the tape. I'm telling you what I said.
Huh?
I'm telling you
You don't know
exactly
what you
I
said. You got a bunch of mucus in your brain right now.
I literally, okay.
Chris, did he say 17 or 17.5?
I don't remember, man.
Wow.
I'm literally
Way to
telling
stay
you
neutral.
exactly what I said.
Switzerland over here.
All right, when you edit this, I want you to replay it right now. Cut in exactly what I said. Right now.
Let's go to a booth review.
Ohio State is favored by 17.5 in this game. And then you can come back to me saying, I told you so.
Okay.
We'll overturn it. There's no intent, so we'll just overturn it, even though. All right, so Pearson bought Ohio State, whatever number, 17.5, whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna buy it too. I think Ohio State wins and covers. Wesley,
All right, I'm buying too.
nice.
I can't be different, I guess. All right, Joe Burrow
Joseph.
and the LSU Tigers face Arkansas this week.
God,
Joe Burrow, in his last 5 games, has passed for 489 yards, 393 yards, 321 yards, 327 yards, 293 yards.
Okay.
Joe Burrow throws for 400 yards this week against Arkansas by herself.
Sell. He's not going to be in the game long enough to hit 400.
that was my thought. I say he racks up a cool, 3-something, maybe even 2-something. I mean, who knows?
Okay, if it was 3, where would the line be for y'all to have to think about it? Like 325?
Yeah, like
350?
325, 350.
I would buy 325. I'll sell 400. I think he'll finish with 346. 3 touchdowns, no picks.
I
and a
could see
rushing
Arkansas, LSU's defense isn't great, right? So I could see Arkansas randomly scoring a touchdown or two, and so they feel compelled. How last week Ohio State put Justin Fields back in because they were only up by 75 on Rutgers or something, and they were like, we're a little bit worried. We'll put him in. We need to score one more time. They immediately scored. Then they took him out again because Rutgers is awful.
So, all right, 350 you're still selling?
Yeah, I'll sell 350.
Man, I wish I would have done a little bit more research.
I'm buying 350.
You're buying? Okay. I'm gonna. I'll buy. I'll go ahead and do it. I'll just do it.
Okay, good.
I wanted to go back and look at the teams that LSU has killed, how long he's played, A, and B, what he passed for against those, but whatever. I'll just buy it.
Yeah, this is all.
We don't do research here.
This is unimproved. We normally do. By the way, last week I was 3-0 and you are both 2-1.
Oh, congrats.
Yep. The only
Next.
difference was we all sold Carolina would outrush A&M. Good job, all of us. We all bought the Joseph Charlton would outpunt Braden Mann, which he did. Heck yeah.
He outrushed him, too.
Outrushed him, too.
Braden Mann with a shank.
Oh, real shankopotamus.
He couldn't. We talked about this Monday.
He
I
was
don't know if you heard
nervous.
it. He couldn't handle the moment.
No, he
Joe
was
Charlton
he was,
rising
he was
to the
scared.
occasion.
I mean, Charlton was like, "I'm coming for your throne," and Mann was quaking in his boots. It was great.
It's gonna be controversial if Braden Mann wins the Ray Guy Award over Charlton,
when Charlton outpunted him head to
and
head.
then B, maybe even if Charlton. I don't know who the other great punters are. I don't watch punter tape.
So he got named to the semifinalist
Right.
list, which was 10. I imagine Max Duffy's on there from Kentucky. That dude's a beast. He's
He
that
can
awesome.
Oh,
spray
he
it.
kicks.
Yeah.
He
sprays
kicks
it.
rugby.
Yeah. He averaged 51 yards a punt
That's
against Carolina,
cheating.
though. It was great. I don't know who else is on the list, but
I think Charlton should get it, man.
yeah, he's great.
All
He,
right,
only,
anyway.
he didn't average. He didn't have a great average. He only averaged like 44 yards a punt on Saturday, but better than Man, who was like 41 or something.
Yeah.
And he's
This
got
is
great
shame.
hair and a great beard.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
It's good. The lone bright spot of this Carolina season. So yeah, you got one more. Or is that it?
I mean,
Oh, we don't have to.
there. I'm gonna.
Let's
all
just
right.
talk about Caslen because we're already going.
Hold on, real quick.
Okay.
Does anybody in the top 25 take a loss this week? The one team that is actually
Yes, Penn State.
Okay,
Bye.
that hasn't.
Bye.
All right,
Someone
Penn
at Penn
State.
State.
I'm selling.
There's a couple ranked matchups this weekend, right?
I'm selling my own. I'm selling my own.
Yeah,
buy
I'm
or
selling
sell.
the rest of your segment. Let's
My
talk about Bob
segment sucks.
Caslen.
Let's move on. We don't have to review the tape on that. I was
All
wrong.
right, statement gate. Bob Caslen keeps saying stupid things that aren't helping the University of South Carolina. You would think he would know better, but clearly he doesn't. Or maybe, as Wes put it, he's playing 5D chess. I just think this is ridiculous and clearly embarrassing for the university. I'm not even an alum. I don't care about the university, but it's embarrassing to just be like associated with it anyway. I stand up when we record this. I'm going to sit down and let y'all talk because I have nothing else to say about it other than Caslen's an idiot and he's not being helpful.
I just think, the need to talk right now by Caslen, by some Board of Trustees members, isn't helping anything. If you're going to put out a statement of support for your head coach, it probably needs to be an actual statement of support, not I'm supporting him until the end of the season. And that does nothing to help recruiting. It does nothing to help your head coach. It does nothing to help the university. All it does is drive speculation. And then to say the Florida State thing, say that, my athletic director did talk to Florida State about it. Then they have to put out a statement saying my athletic director did not talk to Florida State about it. Directly contradicting your own statement, your own quote. It's just a bad look. I don't really know any other way to put it other than that. It's a very, very bad look. And if you're South Carolina, you want to be a place that, regardless of what you feel about Will Muschamp, regardless of what you feel about the football program, whether you think there's a change needed or not, across every sport, the president, this guy's not just running the football program. He's running everything from all the other athletic programs to, hey, there's an actual school, like an actual university here, an actual research campus that this guy controls. So you want to be a place people want to be. And to me, you sort of have thrown your coach under the bus in a way. You've thrown your athletic director under the bus in a way. And that's not really a good precedent to set, is my thought.
No, and we had a piece on our site. I can't remember, maybe the night after that statement, or maybe 2 days after the statement that Tanner put out, right? And so at that point, behind the scenes and publicly, it looked like things had calmed down a little bit. Whereas maybe a week before that, we all had more questions about what direction is this going to go. It still seemed most likely that Muschamp would be back. Well, over the course of those next few days, and Wes, you know this because we talked about it a lot, it seemed to calm down, right, where everybody's anticipating changes, but it seems like Muschamp's going to be back. And because the Board of Trustees members had all talked to the media, not all, a few of them went rogue and talked to the media for reasons I don't understand. And then because of all the speculation, they felt like it was good to put out the united front and make a statement. Okay. So they do that. Things seem to be calm. It seems that they've sort of dug in their heels and that this is the decision they've made. Well, then you get this. Then you get, President Kaslan giving a couple different interviews in which he says he backs the statement, but then he'll say other things about, continuing to talk about a buyout or saying he's my coach for now. We're going to reassess things, after the Clemson game if nobody shows up. And, the Georgia game showed we can be halfway decent. Like a lot of things like that. And so, even if that's your intent, like even if you put out that united front publicly and even if you intend behind the scenes to, we need to take a hard look at this after the Clemson game, you can't do that publicly, right? You can't litigate it publicly because if your intention is to put out this united front, if every intention is to bring Muschamp back, then you got to really dig in on it. And so now what you've got is you've got prospects and their family members who love Muschamp. Now, people who say, well, whatever. A lot of these guys signed up to play for Will Muschamp. You can agree with it or disagree with it as a fan or say they should or shouldn't do that, whatever, but that's the reality of it. I mean, Wes, you can back me up on that. I mean, it's true. And so now you've got those guys, a lot of them concerned because they're looking at the university leadership. Why is Will Muschamp being treated like this? Are they going to do something, rash or something that they don't want them to do? It's just hard to tell now. So if you are going to dig in on Muschamp, you can't hamstring him even further.
Not to mention, if you ever do pull the trigger on that, what quality coach is going to want to come here knowing that if things start to go south, that the board of trustees and the president of the university are going to start to just drag your name through the mud publicly just to make a point?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does hurt you. I mean, money will always speak, but I think if you're talking about a coach that's maybe deciding between your program and maybe an otherwise equal program
that doesn't shit on their people,
that can absolutely be a deciding factor. So, yeah, it's just a bad look over there right now across the board, and unfortunately, it may get worse before it gets better. Is the impression I got. But
it's almost like he didn't have the credentials to be a president of a Power 5 school. You would think that based on the way he's handling this, that maybe he didn't actually deserve the job, and it was all just political undermining that landed him in that position. Eerily similar to that scenario.
Yeah, and the thing to me that really caught my attention, other than the fact that now there's been interviews with two different papers where the papers have then said, you've had a problem with how things have been reported in both of these cases, and then the papers are saying, well, here's the audio of what was said. That's an issue. But the other thing is to give specifics about, well, yeah, this is my coach, and then be like, but hey, guys, if Clemson kills us and there's a bunch of orange in the stands, we got to have a talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's...
You can't say that, even if that's your intention, which is it's possible. It's possible. You have to continually assess things.
Yeah, and you completely undermine...
Yeah, you undermine,
your coach and the statement that your own AD put out.
Right.
Which
3 days prior.
Yeah, which to me, if the purpose of the statement was to say Will Muschamp is back for the 2020 season, even the statement itself could have been more strongly worded.
Mm-hmm.
If the absolute point of that statement is Will Muschamp is here in 2020, then say Will Muschamp is our football coach for the 2020 season. That's a statement that he's coming back, not
going forward.
Going forward.
Yeah.
What does going forward even mean?
But we don't know.
Exactly. So, point being, if you don't have anything nice to say, as my third grade teacher, Miss Bohealer, used to tell us, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But seriously, from a media savvy standpoint, what does any of this accomplish? What positive comes from any of this? So you already are in a bad spot as far as your football program, the perception of where it is, staring for a 4-win season in the face, 6 straight losses to Clemson if you lose next week, heavy underdog to your rival. They're going to be in the college football playoff again. You're already staring all that other stuff right in the face. So, hey, let's make it even harder to win at South Carolina.
The other thing that it does is for the marginal Carolina fans. Caslin has made Will Moshamp a martyr. You know? Like, Carolina fans had sold all of their Will Muschamp stock at this point in the season. And all of a sudden, the fan base is kind of like back on the Moshamp train because Caslin's done this. It's kind of like backfired. It's like he wanted to, I don't know, basically publicly sell that stock and communicate to the fan base that maybe Carolina's going to try and go in another direction. And it's really backfired on him. People are kind of rallying behind Will now.
Yeah, it's like more of a sympathetic figure, which, you know, when I think when he struggles here, he's so well liked within the university by the other coaches. And this was the same case at Florida. Like, nobody wanted it to go this way. Nobody, like, aside from fans, you know, which that happens everywhere, you know, like, root for his failure. You know, that's just not how it is. Everybody wants him to succeed. And I think that's another reason why, you know, I think the reasons why he's in all likelihood, unless something drastically changes, going to be back, that's one reason. That's one part of it, is there's a lot of goodwill there. And everybody wants him to succeed. There's just a lot of reasons that people want that to happen. So, yes, it's sort of taken the heat off a little bit. Now, you know, after next week, you know, it would be hard to project anything other than a Clemson win, probably significantly so.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm sure there'll be more conversations, you know, among fans after that point. But, yeah, it's made it really difficult. You know, like I'll go back to what I said. If you make a decision one way or another, you either say, we're parting ways with our coach, we're definitely bringing our coach back, or if you want to leave it open-ended until the end of the season, just say it. Just say that. Or don't comment at all. Just say we'll evaluate it at the end of the year, like we always do. That's sort of
like
what Muschamp says about his OC
Muschamp
situation.
had said about Brian McClendon.
Right. So, I mean, you gotta pick one of those, and then you need to stick with it throughout. So if you're saying our coach is back, don't say he might not be back. And don't, you know, if you're saying he's back and that's your intention, give him every opportunity to succeed. And they've made it more difficult on themselves because of that, because now you're creating recruiting questions. It's like somebody put it to me, who would know, put it to me like this yesterday, I think it was. The prospects are more concerned about these types of comments and how Muschamp's being treated in the media by his own administration than winning 4 games, which is pretty alarming, right? But that is how they see it, you know? So
I can't wait to do this show next week because I already have some great buy or sells ruminating for the Clemson game. Do y'all think the line will be less than 34?
I have no idea.
I'm thinking like around there, like 33, 34.
It's very possible.
28.5.
Are you kidding me?
That's what I'm going with.
If it's less than 30,
that's what I'm going with.
I'm going to bet I don't have a house, but if I did, I would put it on Clemson to cover minus 28. Are you 28?
Dude, I don't know.
You telling me Clemson's going to score 31 points in that game?
No, you're giving South Carolina 0.
3. Giving them 3.
I'm not saying that's like my opinion on what the score is going to be. That's my guess on the line. You know how sometimes lines come out and you're like, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're pretty good at making the lines.
That'd be a very rivalry line. That would be the only explanation.
I guess. 28.5. That's what I'm going
still
with.
a huge.
That's 4 touchdowns plus half a point.
That would probably be the biggest.
Last year was the biggest line at 26.5.
Oh.
It could be 40, and I would still feel comfortable that Clemson would cover.
Man, I don't think it's going to be a 40-point line, though.
No, it won't. But I think they'll win by 40.
Oh, that's possible.
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll look
save
at the tape this week.
We'll save that for
and
next
decide.
week. Wes, did anybody correctly predict the final score of the Texas A&M game?
Not correctly. I did want to give a shout out to Christy, who I extended this thing to Instagram this week, and Christy actually had the closest score on Instagram, and I sent her a $60 gift card to Slotsky's Deli to go tailgating for free.
You didn't just send her the tailgating package?
Man, that joke never gets old. And we, of course, want to invite everyone else to go out to Slotsky's Deli and enjoy some wonderful sandwiches, sides. They got a Cinnabon right there within the deli as well, chocolate chip cookies. And, of course, want to thank Slotsky's Deli for being a sponsor on Gamecock Central and here on Another Carolina Podcast.
And that'll do it for us this week, I suppose. We'll be back next week with more lukewarm takes about South Carolina football. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends if you like it and you want us to keep doing it. That's a great way to support the podcast. And we will talk to you next week. Okay, bye.